Finally, Andrea, it's our last dip into the pond. The question is it the last dip in the pond for us ever?
Yep.
Or are we going to actually come back and be suckers and do season 4?
We are 100% doing season 4. Hate to break it to you, Eric. Hate to break it to you.
We don't know actually when, though, right? It's just announced that it's happening. They didn't put.
2026. I'm sure it will be just like it is this year, the start of next year.
Okay. Well, maybe I can hop back in time and go forward somehow and miss it. Well, this is Eric.
This is Andrea.
And this is Hallmark Mysteries and more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
Okay, Andrea. We've got a pretty dramatic final episode, I'd say. You ready to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 dramatic final episodes. So, The Way Home, this is the season 3 finale. If you could read my mind, the Landry women get answers to questions about the past, present, and future. So, what did we like? Oh man, I wrote so much. I loved this episode. The opening song, I mean, it started out so great with The Scientist by Beth. It's an acoustic version. I did ask Siri to find it for me and added it right to one of my playlists.
Wait, so it's actually available?
Yeah, it's on Spotify. And now I would say that Hallmark has been crushing their songs game this year because I'm pretty sure I've added 3 songs that have aired. I mean, we're only in the start of March from different Hallmark movies, and I've added them to my Spotify playlist. So they're doing a crushing job with finding different fun folky music that matches the movies, and this was one of them.
Spotify, by the way, Spotify is on our bad list. There's some issue. I think the podcast is not, the last episode did not go up on Spotify. I'm trying to solve it, and I have not been able to.
Interesting.
So Spotify, boo.
Oh, well, don't
Go
do
ahead.
that. Then
Sorry.
they'll never come. Well, the other things that I liked, I loved the Jacob's line with the clock and the pendulum, and he's stuck between the past and the present. And how do I get to the still presence of now? Like, again, as a yoga teacher, I'm like, this is amazing. I loved that symbolism. And I'm like, ooh, how could I thread that into my classes? Because aren't we all, Jacob? Aren't we all? That is my thoughts there. I went deep into the yoga realm. Well, I feel like, yes, we're all living somewhere. How often are you truly in the present, Eric? See?
Always.
No. Well, this episode, I thought it gave us great answers, but it also left us wanting more. So they completed some threads, but then pulled new threads. Grandma Fern was in this one, which, again, still a big Grandma Fern fan. And it seems, and I had this conversation with someone in the DMs as well, that, are we going to go to the 1920s? Because when she was kind of doing her kitty cat and she had said, we met in the past. And then,
when 25.
When Kat was like, I don't know. And, she was like, oh, or maybe it hasn't happened yet. And, she had said 65 or 25. And, based on those numbers of what she was saying, obviously they're probably foreshadowing something. So I'm excited for that. I love, I guess, the Kat and Elliot loving each other, or what they decide to do at the end. I will buy it for now, and we'll see where season 4 takes us. That one is probably my most, I enjoyed that they had some closure there, that we got a little bit more understanding of Elliot and him recognizing, yes, I'm a little screwed up, and Kat saying, yes, me too, which who wouldn't be? If you have a pond that makes you time travel, that's going to kind of mess with your mind, just as we can watch from Grandma Fern. And so to me, that all, I think, close some of those loops as well. I will talk about a standout scene and performance because Jefferson Brown, who plays Colton, crushed this episode. I thought he was fabulous throughout the whole episode, as well as Alice. So Sadie, who played Alice, amazing. Like those two together, which again, I'm going to circle back to in our standout scene and performance, because every time that they were on screen together, you're just like, for myself. Whew.
Wait, so the old Colton is Jefferson Brown. That's his name?
Yes, that's his. Okay. Yeah, that's his name. And so he's been in other Hallmark shows before, including Good Witch, but he is wonderful. And I think he's really having kind of that breakout. I think for most people, breakout star moment in this series. And I enjoyed how they, Dell finally got to time travel and seeing her wedding. I enjoyed that piece. And I enjoyed when she was watching that scene and she was like, this is exactly how I remember. And then Colton, cut to the scene when he time traveled. This is exactly how I remember. We got the closure of Alice actually pushing herself into the lake, which I did not see coming. I thought it was going to be Colton because since we had saw him, I thought that was who was running through the field. And no, it was actually Alice, which we haven't seen the way home do, where we're looking at ourselves.
Right.
I guess we saw Colton do that, looking at ourselves from that regard, but never seeing ourselves or like that catching ourselves. So that was kind of fun to witness that. So there's so much more, but I'll save some for you, Eric. What did you like?
So I listened to this podcast and it's about screenwriting. And coincidentally, this week's, or last week, I guess, that was about puzzle box series and how do you create a puzzle box series, of which this is, right? It's the puzzle where all the pieces have to fit together. And they were saying there's two ways you can go, but you either dole out answers all along to keep people interested and engaged, or if you're going to have the big ending, you have to create characters that everyone is truly invested in, that you just have to know the answer and you have to wait. So that's where I think the series sort of does fail a little bit. It doesn't dole out enough to keep me personally engaged or create characters that I just really want to know the outcome. The other thing they said, though, is it's really critical that you know your time span. How many episodes / seasons are you going to create so you can pace it and work your way back? Otherwise, you end up making meaningless, meandery filler content, which this does seem like it has. So we'll get into that a little later. What I think, if we're going to do I assume we'll do what comes next. But I think that's where this one, personally for me, kind of failed, is that they didn't have that vision of what we're going to get, and this can't get that commitment from Hallmark. But after that rant, I will say this was by far the best episode since season 2, episode 1 for me. I thought it was really good. There, 80% of it I was all in, wouldn't be changing, loved. Like you said, the Colton Ellis dynamic, they could have given, or these 44 minutes, whatever it is, they could have given us 43 and a half minutes of just those two interacting. And I would have been like, this is the best series I've ever seen, ever. Those two killed it, slayed. As I just got through saying, you have to have characters you like. Alice is sort of the one who all along we've held on to, of she's had some moments where like, oh, what's going on? But all in all, totally been bought into and like Alice. So kudos to that. Like you said, and we'll probably discuss a little bit, I loved how they wrapped up Colton and a lot of the answers or questions, excuse me, that we had. I love the way it sort of just unrolled too. So it was sort of like you had that moment where, he realizes who everybody is. When Alice comes out of the pond and he meets her, right? You're the time traveler. When Alice and him have their big talk and he's like, give me answers. I can't give you answers. And then they sort of there and they have that moment together. Just all in all, I thought it was really, really great in that aspect. So it also gave us a big answer to what we've said. What was the whole point of episode 1 or season 1, right? He explained, I didn't know that Jacob could time travel. He'd been in the pond before, didn't travel. He was way far away, so I didn't even think that it would go to the pond. So it gave us those answers that we needed. So I felt closure there, and that was really good. I loved when he shared that, like, he's got to live with the torment of secrets, which great. So Colton Jefferson. What was not Jefferson Brown? What's his name?
Jefferson Brown.
Jefferson. Wait, isn't Jefferson? Oh, Jackson Brown's the singer. Okay, Jefferson Brown. Kudos. You went from being a guy who I didn't dislike to now being absolute love it, love it. So, and I also liked how they did that rollout. How it was like from his POV, like you just saw his brain clicking right with each scene. That was absolutely fantastic. So. I do have some different thoughts on some of the things that you liked, which are we going to get into maybe what we didn't love?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first. Nothing. But the only thing that I would say that I just have, I wouldn't even say a dislike, but just I had question, like Kat realizing that her dad still loved her, even though she killed him essentially. But like that's like a parent's love. Like, how did you not
Right.
think that your parent would stop loving you? I mean, I like you again, we both are parents. Like, of course, like that's just a parent's love. You are going to love your child no matter what. So yeah, that was my only like, I mean, of course, you went through years thinking like, or the last, I don't know how many years thinking this since you knew you time traveled and saw what happened. But like, really, of course, he's gonna love you. Like, you're a mom, Kat, you should know.
Well, she is not mother of the year, so she may not know.
That's true. What
By the
about
way, I
you?
forgot I forgot to say also Casey running into Alice and them explaining, so that unraveled too. So
Mm-hmm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
pretty interesting and opened up a nice door for what season 4 could be, which I hope
Mm-hmm.
is Alice, 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 but whole other thing. Okay. So for me, you kind of talked about the mother's love and everything. For me, and this is kind of a season long feeling. I don't get Dell questioning Colton's love for her and like, oh, he gave up a sacrifice to, of music to be with me. Colton never, ever, from everything we have seen, ever gave her any reason to ever think he sacrificed to be with her. And so that just seems so forced to me. Like, oh, we need Dell to have some sort of conflict. Not needed, didn't need it. I personally did not like that Dell went into the pond because one of the good things that created a little bit of conflict was Dell not being able to relate because now it just is back to the you time travel, we all time travel, everybody time travels. I'm
Oh,
waiting
the
for
Landrys
Nick
do. The Landrys
I'm
do.
waiting for Nick to, yeah, but they took Elliot, they took now they've taken Dell, so they can take
Yeah.
Pels with them. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for Nick to pop out and then go, whoa, 1983 was totally rad, bogus, dude. So I
I
didn't
don't,
like that
where
Dell
did
went
he
back.
go? This, like, he has been
Yeah, I know.
MIA since we last talked
That's
about
just
him. He just
because
disappeared.
too
Maybe
much
he is in the pond. Maybe, who knows? Where did he
too
go?
much going on. I didn't like the whole Langermore deed of how the Landrys actually own it. Like that just seems contrived. And if they take it over or whatever, not totally unnecessary. Unnecessary. There's so many more interesting places you can go than Langermore. Um, I did not, and you kind of touch on it. It just the chemistry between Kat and Elliot is just not there. It's supposed to be this good, passionate, I love you moment, and I just yawn. Like I'm crying during Colton's entire thing, and Kat comes on with Elliot, and I'm like, oh no, I wonder what I can fast forward through this. And the last thing I'll say, and this is sort of getting to like the little petty-ish things of it. Do you really mail a expensive heirloom ring, right? Just pop it in the mail because we all know that mail always gets there and everything like that. I think you would choose a little more secure delivery and have that thing insured, unless it's actually not worth anything because it's just made of tin and all of that. And so who would have cared? So whatever. There's that. So and then also last thing I'll say, how does Alice not know that her daughter is a time traveler when you look at it like, oh, we're best friends, we're doing all these games. Oh, I hope I have a daughter and everything like that. And
You
it
mean,
just
how
seems,
does Kat not know? You
oh
said
yes, a
Alice. Okay.
cat. Like, how does she not know when Alice comes in? If somebody from my high school popped up as my kid, like I would be like, wow, you look exactly like Christopher. That's kind of weird, right? So how Kat doesn't know who Alice is?
Why would she? Like, you wouldn't know your own child when you were in high school?
No, no, no. Future Alice. Like, be like, this is weird. Like, at least something weird. Like, wow, my daughter looks exactly like my high school BFF.
Okay. I don't know if I am tracking your thoughts right now.
2023 Alice.
Okay.
Excuse me, Kat.
This is also why I'm having trouble tracking your thoughts. You keep mixing up their names. Okay. Go
2023
again.
Kat
Yep.
should know that Alice looks like her best friend from 1999.
Okay. That, yes. But I feel like that was like a season 1 question since they hung out all the time.
Yeah, but
But
they went back and did the game. Oh, you're
yeah.
going to have one daughter, which she then would remember from the rest. Current Alice would remember that she's only going to have one daughter, kind of thing. So, whatever. Move on. Like I say, the episode was 80% fantastic. So, shouldn't even complain.
Well, standout scene or performance. I feel like everyone probably has the scene, but Colton and Alice at the pond, like every time I watch that scene, because I watched this episode twice. Like the first time I was like, oh, usually I'll take notes that the first watch and then I'll, dive a little bit deeper with notes the second time. And then the first time this episode was just so riveting. I didn't take any notes and I just watched and I just am like bawling. And then the second time I watch it, bawling again. I'm like, wow, they are so good together. Like Sadie and Jefferson Brown just crushed it. Like, this road we are on leads to you. I need you to jump. Like, just amazing. So for me, definitely standout scene or performance from both of them throughout the whole episode. And just that scene just, pulled at your heartstrings. So you probably have the same.
I'll give it to you. So I'll come up with another one. But for me, in that scene, by the way, it was when he's like, "So I get to see Jacob again,"
Oh,
and
yeah.
and Alice cries, and
Oh,
that
the
Jefferson, his
dawning.
realization,
Yeah. Oh,
and it's like, okay, like that was the one moment for me, right?
yeah.
So I'll give you that scene because, like you said, it's a no brainer
So
by
good.
far there. How about when Jacob goes, it's Danny, right? His
Mm-hmm.
buddy. When he goes to Danny and Danny in his room has the old typewriter. So are we to think Danny is the I know what's going on sending messages? So a little hint. I don't know if it means anything. Perhaps.
I know
So
somebody sent me a DM about that too. Cause I'm like, I don't notice any. So I watched for the first time after, like,
what
they
did they
had like
say?
bonus content afterwards. And then I'm like, oh, I never usually watch like the 2-minute clips, but I actually watched them. And so one of them, like Elliot was saying, the Way Home fans always have to watch. Like, so right now, my background that I have, like, it would be like, hey, something on that shelf actually means something in a future scene, which I don't pay close enough attention. Like, I'm still trying to like just grasp. I feel like for us, like, we're just still trying to enjoy the characters and actually get invested in the show, that we're not noticing the details because we weren't as invested. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I will pay more attention in season 4 to some of those background things, because I did not notice the typewriter at all until someone sent me the DM and was asking. And, she had said too, like, I don't know, what does that say about Danny? Like, that just throws a whole wrench into things. I just think Murder She Wrote anytime I see a typewriter, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't know if it mean that's why I was going to ask what they thought because I don't know if I'm overreading because we're looking for things
Yeah.
or if it actually because Danny, to what we know and the involvement we've had it with him, makes no sense to anything, right?
Correct.
So, other than he's had a life of torment because of
Of
Jacob,
Jacob.
supposedly.
Yeah.
But so that's why I said I don't know. So I was curious as to what they thought because I don't know if I'm just reaching for straws.
No, I think that's a lot of the theory that is probably floating around there, and I have no idea. I also will say I did watch one of those bonus episodes, and they talked about the clothes, which I actually found that interesting, and like the material that they have. So sometimes they don't look as wet. So they have like 4 outfits of the same thing that they jumped into the pond with, and they have a material over the top of it to make it look either more wet, less wet. And so it was kind of interesting hearing that, the wardrobe side of things, because obviously when you're jumping in and out of pond, and then like my hair is wet right now because I just got out of the shower, like this would be a look that they would go to, and they would, you know, have the hairstylist do that so they can look more wet as they come out. But then when you're actually thinking about all the logistics of that, that's a lot, because my hair, by the time we're done doing our podcast about both, you know, movies, our fixer upper this week, it will probably be dry. That's a long time to like sit and wait for hair to be done, to redo makeup. Like when you actually think about all that, that's a heavy, I mean, that's going to add to your, how long is it going to take to film and get stuff prepped. So kudos to Hallmark for doing that.
From what I can tell, you dry in your jeans and your flannel and everything like that dries in about 6-7 minutes when you.
Well, it just depends on the material they use
when you leave the pond. No,
well,
I've complained
about that. You should watch that. I know you have, and that's where I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You should watch that.
I get the real world of it. My thing is the pond world of it. So okay, let's move on.
Oh, fine. Well, what are we hoping is coming in future episodes? So when Colton, no, scratch that. That was answered. The baby was Elliot, correct? Like that's what we're to presume at the end? Because Del said Elliot.
Oh, the baby is Elliot, you mean?
Yes. Right?
Okay. I
catch that too? Because I listened to it twice. I heard Elliot both times when Del picked it up and said, oh, Elliot. So I'm assuming that was Elliot.
And I don't know if it's supposed to be literal or if it's like, oh, Elliot, meaning this is going to traumatize Elliot, because I don't know. Like,
okay.
I don't know.
I thought it was that. And then when you look, because you can kind of see, again, the back.
Does he have little glasses?
The back of someone's head, and you're like, oh, that looks like Casey. So did Casey take Elliot to the doorstep of Colton and Del? Like that also looked like, because I watched it twice, I rewound it the second time, I'm like, okay, it kind of looks like Casey's hair. And did they move, you know, potentially baby Elliot to the doorstep? So that's intriguing. And then, you know, who is the one that jumped with Elliot's mom? Is it Colton's brother? Who else would it be? Is it Casey? Did Casey jump if they can time travel? Like, I mean, just it's so interesting to kind of think about where that thread could go.
And we know Casey can time travel.
Correct. Well, I know that's why we're like, did Casey jump with Elliot's mom? Who knows? Like who is it? And then I was so funny because the last episode, I'm like, this person clearly has, this is my only like actually really paying attention to more than just what we see on there, is like, they wouldn't be showing us this person with Alice in the coffee shop for this long talking about this book unless they actually, you know, portrayed, they have to have some sort of tie into the show. So of course that was probably Elliot's mom. And I'm like, oh, that all tracks. And then where do we go? Like, is Elliot's mom still alive then, we're to presume?
Then the whole 1925 thing, unless we're going to go ahead once again and have split times again, which I don't like. Pick a time and focus on that. But
I don't mind it. What about you? What are you hoping?
I'm hoping we get Alice and Max and Max and Alice.
Well, Noah came back, so there's also that.
Yeah. I don't want Noah. So he somehow dies in a food truck explosion.
Maybe he's a time traveler, and maybe he left.
Everyone's a time traveler, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, and then we have Sam Bishop, who was at the pond and is like, no, because there's also, I mean, and then what we're you know, final thoughts. Jacob clearly jumped ship again and went back to the pond, and so I'm like, maybe they're looking for Jacob once more, and then he's in the 20s this time, maybe, and that's where they find him. And Sam is like, nope, he's fine. And is he staring at the pond? I mean, I found those to be great threads of like, ooh, what's coming? We have so many opportunities and so many directions we could go. So that's where, for me, I'm back in the pond, ready to go for season 4 in about a year.
So here's going back to my original rant. What I wish they would have done was wrapped it up, right? Wrapped up
everything? No questions?
Yep, wrapped it all up.
No.
And then started a new mystery puzzle going forward with like, okay, like, and or I guess maybe not wrap everything. Like you could leave one thing there and then just have that. So once again, Alice and Max, and just have that be the new one. Be done with the whole Landry history bullshit and stuff. Boom. We're wrapped up. We knew where we were going. Now it's just that doling out and coming up with things, and I think we'll just get more meandering. So they should have just started, boom, okay, done. Now we have this one, we move on. And I think that would have made it more interesting. But we'll see. We will
Are those
see.
your final thoughts?
That's my final thoughts.
All right. Well, I did a poll, and so I'm going to read the poll results. So I asked what everyone thought of the season 3 finale, and OMG loved it, 67%. It was okay, but still so many questions, 23%. Not great, was hoping for more, only 3%. And I will not be watching season 4 is 8%. So all in all, people really enjoyed that episode. So
I would have liked to have answered the, oh my God, this was great, and I will not be watching season 4.
yeah,
But
you skewed the results.
apparently I am watching season 4. So
You are. Well, let's go into a series question mark finale. Hopefully, maybe we'd get more. I don't know. The Spencer sisters, the runaways regret. When Billy is kidnapped, Victoria and Darby have to set aside their differences. All right, so what we liked, I loved that they had all of the characters from the series basically in this one, even for just like little, just one scene here or there for some of them. I think it really set up for the finale of this episode. I loved that ending scene and the little wink where Darby was like, no, we are following the book. Do you understand? And then her mom being like, oh, got it. Like, you read my book. And, she's like, no, I read the Cliff
read the
Notes online, that's
so
again,
Darby.
Yes. I'm like, that's great. And I love how the confetti threw and, Dumb coming in and just how they wrapped it up. They left it again so much questions, and they have direction where you can take it in season 2 because we have the Lucas and we have the Darby. Could they get together? What's happening there with Lindsay? And then we have Alistair still kind of like pawning over Victoria. And then obviously Billy potentially going to jail or not, who knows? And then we have Zane. Could he take over the police department? Is that detective going to leave? Just so many different fun avenues that they could go if they continue this series. So I'm really, really hopeful that Hallmark would pick it up. I don't know if they will, but I think they have something here that could be fun for the audience. And just a weekly, hey, little drop of a show. Let's throw it on just like we did for, The Way Home or When Calls the Heart. Let's have a little fun mystery one like this. Awesome. I think this would be a wonderful, like, throw it in the fall and let's have some fun. What about you? What'd you love?
I'm with you there. My first note is I'm sad that this may be it for the series. As Leah said, though, it seems like a no-brainer. If Hallmark really does want to do it, they have the cast, they have the story, they have where, like you just said, where you could go. So it seems like it could be there. And from everything I have seen online, the people who have watched it have all loved it. Like, I don't see anyone being like, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
So people have really liked it. The thing that's cool about it too is while they are all self-contained little 44-minute mysteries, they do have this ongoing underlying plot that sort of goes to this crescendo of their relationships. So they do like callbacks to other episodes and things like that. So it's not reliant, kind of like we were just talking about The Way Home, where you really everything is relying on previous episodes, and that's essentially one big episode, right? Here it's just an underlying current that what is going to happen, the relationships grow, this, that, and the other, like the Alistairs, and you're talking about the Zanes and Lucas and Lindsay, like all that continues to go. But at the core, we have a self-contained mystery that you could just hop in. You could watch episode 7 and no other one, and you could just thoroughly enjoy it, right? You don't need to have all of them. Now, watching them all, I think you have a greater appreciation and you enjoy more because you do get to know them all. So I love that. My final thought is, and I guess I'll be a little dire and say, okay, it is the final episode ever, right? My final thought is Darby is petulant and just even at whatever, she just is a petulant child, and Victoria is absolutely wonderful in every single way you can be wonderful. So love Victoria and will not say anything bad about her no matter what. I also found it really funny, like the whole scene, and I'll get into it in a little bit, but yeah, that whole scene when at the end when they go to the police and say, here's the painting," and it turns out to be the Tyler Lautner poster. I thought that was a
Yes,
fun little
that was so
swap
cute.
kind of thing because all that. And then the question is, Billy slash James, is he bad? I don't know. Is Victoria going to stand by him? And where do we go? Which once again, love to see where that goes. The question I have though is the was that painting really worth killing over? I don't know. So, but all in all, I'm with you. I thought it was just really good episode in most aspects of it. Could not get enough of him. I loved him. I loved the Spencer daughter. I love the conclusion at the very end when Darby does say, "You have to go on the tour." And you know what? Spencer's sisters will be here when you get back. I can figure things out while you're gone. Go do your tour. And, there's just that relationship of how the mother and daughter have grown from, even the last episode, if you think about it, she was just really mad, but she's come to understand it and understand her mom a little more, even if she only read the Wikipedia. I think her revelation that, okay, mom, you did what you had to do. We just talked about the way home, right? And what a mother, a parent does. And sort of looking at it now as you did such a great thing as a parent, and the sacrifices you made emotionally for all this was fantastic. So I I just watched the whole thing with a little general sadness, thinking it could be the end, which for me, unfortunately, kind of distracted because I could not get it out of my head thinking this could be it. And I don't want it to end. I just don't.
Eric, there are endings and beginnings. Pulling it
Yes.
back into yoga, this is something that we
Live
work
in the
on
present.
in yoga. Correct. Well,
Futurizing, by the way. I'm not a pastor. I'm a futurizer.
you
So
are
the
not a
pool,
pastor.
the pool would not, or the pond would not do me well because the pond takes you back. My thing is forward.
That's interesting. Um, we'll circle back to that someday. So what I didn't like for myself, the only thing I didn't like was obviously there was harsh words. There was a lot of intensity of that last episode. And it just seemed to be kind of glossed over with both Zane and her mom. I mean, it was very quick resolution. I would like things to be fleshed out a little more because that's how things kind of build up over time because we're just kind of like, we're good, great. Yep, let's move on. Let's not even talk about it. Let's not bring it up. So for me, maybe they would have fleshed that out more in season 2, just calling back and being like, hey, let's sit down and talk about it. Because obviously Zayn had even said he hadn't worked past some of this and, he will forgive, but they just need some time. So I think that that is a healthy response. And so I would have liked a little more, but again, because this episode was sold with everything, there was no time for that, and to have scenes with all of the different castmates coming back. So that would be my only complaint that I have.
Mine is I'll have one and then we'll roll into the mystery. My complaint, I didn't like the kiss with Lucas and Darby,
Oh,
especially in a final episode, potentially final season, like that we don't ever get what happens with it. I Part of it's because why am I going? What's his name? Dak. What's the other?
Dax.
Like I'm totally him. I don't think that Lucas and Darby should get together. I like Lindsay and Lucas together. So I guess maybe that's part of it. I was hoping it wouldn't come to it. But the scene when Lindsay comes to him is like, just tell me not to take the case. Right? That was a good scene. And Lucas is looking at her and then Darby calls. Now, granted, Darby definitely needed to call because, you know, crazy stuff. Well, actually, does she actually need to call Lucas? I don't know. But that was a great, and that wasn't even my standout scene. So great scene. And then I'll roll into the mystery. And for me, it's kind of hard to say because I love the episode so much. I thought the actual mystery was a little bit clunky for me, whereas I normally love the mysteries and I love the way that they investigate and I have fun with it. And it's always the episodes really, while that's the main thing, there's so much more going on and that they can go jump and we don't really worry about it like a little plot hole here or there because we know what we're getting and the flow just really works. Whereas this one, I found it just a little bit clunky in the investigation portion. And it could be because they're trying to wrap so many things up that it just too much to pack in there. And then like the taping of the key at the bar, and to your point, maybe it was an opportunity to go to the bar and, have that scene. But are you really going to tape this key to your security box in a bar when you
No.
could hide that key a million places in your house that
Yeah.
never, ever, ever, ever would be found? So I found that kind of a little forced, whereas other episodes, like I say, I just, even if it was like, oh, it didn't there, it just sort of, I glossed over it, didn't bother my common sense thing. Whereas that one to me was the first time in all 10 episodes where I was just like, really? That's just, I don't like it. That was it.
Well, for me, I thought the mystery was good. Like they had the intense bad guys and
The
they're
Russians.
right. And they're, watching that little clip. I did have to like watch it, I think, a couple times to be like, okay, so what happened in this clip? And trying to figure out, wait, who was, which one was Billy, and trying to get that whole angle. And then obviously, as you had said, like, is Billy good or bad? You can't necessarily tell from that clip either, which I think they wanted you to leave you with that suspicion of, did he do it on purpose just to take the, painting himself and to run? And I don't know. Was he working with them? I don't know. None of that is necessarily, you can't tell from watching that, little video. And so that to me was enjoyable about the mystery. And I did enjoy, again, how they caught them with the confetti. And I love to end my senior classes that I teach, and we throw pretend confetti like that. So for me, I was like, oh, that's cute. We could bring a bag and do that, and that'd be a fun little thing. Although then we'd have to clean up the confetti. That's not as fun. But that to me, again, stand out. And then again, the music and the people coming in. To me, a good
Wait, stop
music.
talking about that.
What, the music?
Yeah,
that's
that
part of
scene.
yours? Oh, okay. Well, that is also my standout scene in performance. So if it's yours too, I know.
Yes.
Of course it is, because that's like the best scene. Like it just, the slow-mo, the song coming in and
Right.
having everyone get together. Of course it's going to be the best scene, I thought, of the episode. So I'm right there with you.
But it was like the action, like you said, the music, the way that the music got introduced. It was the actual filming of it.
Yep.
Like you say, where it's all coming in and then it just sort of comes in slow motion as they all storm in there. And then you cut over to Darby and, Victoria and they're like together. So yes, it was great. With the explosion of the confetti was just the perfect way to just get it all rolling. Because
Yes.
I did not, like, I knew it wasn't the painting, right? But I did not expect that at all. So it was boom. And the thing about that scene, and I think about it afterwards, and I'll go back to Christmas with Confessions of a Christmas Letter, right? When there's a movie, a scene, or something like that, when I literally am like, oh my God, my cheeks are hurting because I'm smiling as I'm watching it. I'm like, that's good. That's entertainment. Is it, does it have to be like Confessions of a Christmas Letter? Was that the best movie? No. But I had a blast watching it. This scene was, I was just watching and I rewound it at that moment and watched it again because it was just so good. And then afterwards, I realized just how much I was just enjoying every little aspect of it. So yeah, it was great. And then going back before that, but if we're pinpointing it, it is confetti blowing and then the rest, right? But as you mentioned before, like, oh, Darby coming in, I'm, Bryn Martell, and I forget what she said your name is, but going into the characters, and like you said, we're going to do it from the book. And then, to be honest, the way she approached that and sort of, suggesting like, hey, you bribe me, give me my $2 million or euros, and then give me these two so I can bring them in, and I'll say I never saw you. For being like the silly thing of, oh, I'm Bryn Martell, was actually pretty darn plausible of a thing, right? So sometimes, like when you're the silly, but silly based with something that could be real. So really just great ending. I just wish it was the great ending of the season, like the way home, as opposed to the series. So Hallmark, don't be dumb. You've got this served up on a silver platter. Run with it.
Well, any last thoughts? I'm with you on hoping there is something more to come of this series.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
I need some more Victoria.
Well, it's been a pleasure chatting, well, The Way Home and Spencer Sisters with you. So we will pick up The Way Home again next year when it airs. And Spencer Sisters, fingers crossed. Keep our fingers crossed.
And if there's a new something series, we'll pick that up. But for right now, there's nothing going on. So,
Yeah.
all right. Until next time.
Bye.